does it look? Not fucking good. That's how it looks. I mean, the country is in an extraordinarily precarious position in terms of its balance sheet, and like you said, this debt to GDP ratio that's the highest it's been in recent history, and we really don't have any plans to cut spending going forward. And so, what can we do? I mean, Lynn Alden says it best, right? She says nothing stops this train. Like the plan is really to just inflate away the debt and to just, try to lean gently on inflation a little bit more to give the appearance of solving our problems by patching up nominal numbers, while at the same time doing what that policy has done, which is widen the inequality gap and brutalize the lower and middle class with inflation. And that's going to be it. And every time the Fed does it, they take it a little bit further. So maybe this go round, they'll buy ETFs, which they've never done before. There was always this conspiracy theory that the Fed's buying stocks. I was, even today, man, I see a day like today where the market looks like it's really going to start to cascade lower at one point, and all of a sudden, no, here's the bid. All of a sudden, magically at the low of the day, fucking pops back up X amount. So like, for me, it just seems obvious that the next time they do QE, they'll just do it a little bit further. Maybe they will buy stocks. Maybe they will buy ETFs. I mean, so we'll just go full Japan until our market is trading sideways for 10 or 20 years. But really, we've broken things, I think, beyond a point of any repair. And so really for me, my investing thesis has, other than buying, extremely deep value, things where equities where I see extremely deep value, to buy things that can't be printed, and obviously that's my gold and silver and, real estate thesis, and to some extent my Bitcoin thesis as well. So that's where I am with that.
And they're going to have to stick their hands deeper and deeper into the bag of tricks. And one thing that's on the lineup coming is probably yield curve control, right? Trump has got his new man on the Fed governor board, Stephen Moran, and it seems as if he wants to cut drastically. But this third mandate, yield curve control. Explain in simple terms, as you do so brilliantly, what yield curve control is and what that
Nothing.
will do to inflation.
It's just bond buying. It's just trying to control where the bond market, allows yields to go. Yield curve control is just, bond prices go up, yields go down, bond prices go down, yields go up. And so what's yield curve control? The yield curve is you have your shorter dated bonds all the way out to your longer dated bonds. They want that to look like it's in some type of orderly fashion. And so they say, okay, we're not going to let the fucking twos or the tens or the 30s get above or below. So the Fed's a buyer at 4% and the Fed's a seller at 4.5%, or the Fed's a seller at 4.5% and a buyer at 4%. They just put a bid and, they just make a market in the bond market. The idea being that, if the Fed cuts down to 2% and the long end of the curve, yields go up instead of down, then it's like, okay, well, that's the bond market saying that, like, the credit worthiness of the country is shot. And that may be like what happens in the 30-year might be what happens, might be what forces yield curve control, or even in the 10-year. So we'll have to see if the bond market does in fact crack up, but that's just a fancy term for just, monetizing bonds.
Yeah. And when they do that, they're essentially printing money out of thin air, right?
To create some, well, they're going to be forced to do it. Yeah, exactly. They'll be forced to do it. I mean, it creates the illusion that everything's okay, but also it prevents rates from going up, which they'll need to do because we can't have the long end of the curve at 8%, or 7% with $37 trillion in debt. We'll go from already bankrupt to completely fucked very quickly. Those are finance terms.
And you end that piece by saying that the Fed, by doing all this stuff, they're going to, quote, save the day. At least that's how they'll be portrayed on CNBC. And the vast majority of the public will think that they are the saviors of this system. Just like we saw Ben Bernanke with the cover of The Atlantic of The Hero in 2009,
Yeah,
right?
it's sick. Yeah, it's sick. Everybody should go look at a chart of like the wealth inequality gap. Look at like the lower 50% versus the top 10%. And just look at how that has widened since, we went off the gold standard. That's really what the Fed is doing. I mean, they're under the guise of saving everything. They're just widening the inequality gap. The rich are getting richer. It's funny too, because a lot of the Democrats press for these types of solutions. They want they want, they're huge fans of the Fed, but they don't even understand that, monetary policy is like the fucking third rail in this country. Nobody talks about it. The Republicans and Democrats have both kind of silently agreed that they're okay with it. And it's regressive, and it's just it's brutalizing the middle and lower class, and in multiple ways, not the least of which is inflation. And just destroying the purchasing power of the dollar, making it impossible to save. um, so that is what will happen. We'll have a sharp deleveraging. The Fed will come in, and they have one trick. They're always talking about, oh, we have tools and this and that. They got thousands of economists and a $3 billion, building that they work in. They have one fucking button, that's print money, lower interest rates and print money. That's their only tool. And anytime they do that, access their quote infinite cash, as Neil Kashkari called it. Just brilliant. I mean, I don't understand how anybody can listen to somebody say that and be like, that makes sense. You don't need to be a fucking finance major. You just have to have a molecule of common sense, And here's a Fed governor on national television saying the Fed has infinite cash. It's like Ben Bernanke said, we can print money at no cost. And what he meant was no cost, like it doesn't cost anything to run, the fucking printer. Like it costs very little in electricity. But of course there's costs on the populace. Of course there's costs on the economy. I mean, there's no, like, they act like this is the secret fucking game genie cheat code for the whole economy that's here to do nothing but usher in utopia, and that there will be no consequences. And anybody, you don't need to be a philosophical expert on economic laws or just, the nature, human laws. Even you could zoom out even further and just karma in general and the way that the world works. You don't need to be an expert on all those things. Nothing comes at no cost. Nobody has infinite anything. So what will happen is these people will be hailed as heroes, but the effects of their policies will continue to shoehorn the inequality gap wider and make things worse for the lower and middle class, and will continue to consolidate wealth among the upper class. And then, we'll go for the ride all over again. We'll be reliving 2008.
Thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you could drop a like and a share, it would help in our mission to accelerate adoption. If you're looking for more Bitcoin signal, join over 10,000 readers of our newsletter, Bitcoin News Weekly. Every Monday morning, we send out the biggest headlines of Bitcoin to keep you in the know in under 5 minutes. Links below in the description. Then come hang with us live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. We break it all down live on stream with a new guest, and you can add your 2 sats in the chat. See you next week.